We begin the Gemara today on Daf Kuf Te Zayin Amud Aleph, 4 lines down from the top of the Yomud. Vayomru. So the Gemara here continues from what it brought before regarding the Bas Haben. A daughter of a son is like her father, and therefore she would inherit together with the father's brothers. Meaning, if the grandfather passes away and his sons are going to inherit the Yerusha, the brother that's not alive but has a daughter, the Bas Haben, she inherits, and she's like in the place of her father and inherits together with her uncles. The example the Gemara spoke about before was regarding Benois Tzlafchad. The daughters of Tzlafchad inherited the Yerusha of her grandfather, or their grandfather, Chefer, together with Chefer's sons. Because the Bas Haben is just like the Ben, the son himself. But here the Gemara brings a pasuk that one time in history in Klal Yisrael there was an exception made for this. So the pasuk says, "Vayomru Yerushas Pleita leBinyamin v'leimacha shevet miYisrael." So this pasuk is written by the story of Pelegesh Begiva after there was a terrible incident that happened, and Klal Yisrael came and fought a war against Shevet Binyamin, and the Shevet, from going to being a Shevet that had tens of thousands of people, went down to being only 600 people. Sheish Meis, that's it, that was left from them. So now in that case, they were misaken at that time that the Bas Haben should not yarshin together with her uncles the Yerusha, in the place of the father together with the brothers. And the reason is because if the Bas Haben, the daughter, is going to yarshin and then she goes and gets married to someone from a different shevet, so then what happens? The Yerusha of this shevet is going to end up by a different shevet. And because this is Shevet Binyamin, where from being such a large Shevet that had such a large territory, now it's only 600, so every Bas Haben that would inherit a piece of the grandfather's Yerusha, that's a very big piece of territory, because each one of the people of Shevet Binyamin that were left over got a very, very big part of what belonged before to 10,000 people. So if she would yarshin and then she would get married to someone else, that would be a huge part that would go end up by a different Shevet. So therefore what they instituted is, as the Gemara here says, Amar Rav Yitzchak, the Bei Rabami, Melamed, this pasuk teaches, Shehisnu al Shevet Binyamin, that at that time they made a condition by Shevet Binyamin, Shalei Tiresh Bas Haben Ima Achin, that the daughter of the son should not yarshin together with the brothers, even though Mikra Din Min HaTorah, that's what the halacha is, that the Bas Haben takes the place of her father together with the other brothers to yarshin. But over here, as I mentioned, because they didn't want the Yerusha should end up at a different shevet, they said that she should not yarshin. And the Rashbam here says that this is b'koyach, the takana of the bezn at that time, with the koyach of bezn hefker, that she does not yarshin. But the Rashbam adds, this is only in a case where there are sons to yarshin, so then the Bas Haben would not yarshin together with the sons. But in a case where there were no sons, and it was just a daughter that was here to yarshin, so then in such a case, or just a Bas Haben, then she would yarshin, that's her Yerusha, she would get it. And the Rashbam adds that min hastam, they were careful in such a case that she shouldn't marry someone from a different shevet. The Marsha adds to this that then why didn't they make a takana b'chlal that she should be able to yarshin, and just that she should not marry anyone from another shevet, similar to the mitzvah saseh that there is, or the Isser Lav that there is in the first generation when Yidden came into Eretz Yisrael, that any woman that inherits a inheritance in Eretz Yisrael should not marry from a different shevet. The Marsha says that over here it's difficult to make such a takana because Shevet Binyamin was so small, just 600 people. So if they would say she only could marry from her Shevet, it would be very difficult for her to get married. That's why they rather made the takana that she should not yarshin, so the Yerusha should remain in Shevet Binyamin. Amar Rav Yechanan Mishum Rav Shimon ben Yochai. Rav Yechanan said in the name of Rav Shimon ben Yochai, Kol she'ena maniach ben liyarshay, one that does not leave a son to inherit him, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Malei Olav Evra. The Eibusher is filled with anger on this individual. Ksiv Hacha, the pasuk here says, V'havartem es nachlasei. In the case when mainly ben, if one doesn't have a son, then you pass over, you transfer the nachla to a daughter. Or Ksiv Hasam, and there's another pasuk where it says Yoim Evra Hayoim Hahu. So the term V'havartem is also to be understood as a day of anger. Now the Rishonim point out, the Yad Ramah here says that this is only in the case where a person was able to give birth to children, and he didn't do what he has to fulfill the mitzvah to have children, then the Gemara is saying that the Eibishter is filled with anger on him. But in the case where Oynis Rachmana Patre, where it's not in his hands at all, this that will not apply. Asher ein chalifa islamai v'lo yaru elikim, that they don't have those that will exchange them, and they are not God-fearing. What's the meaning of this pasuk? Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Shua ben Levi. Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Shua ben Levi argued about the pshat of this pasuk. Chadoma one says, Kol she'ena maniach ben. This refers to someone that doesn't leave a son to exchange him or to be in his place, and that's a sign that he's not God-fearing. Ein chalifais. He doesn't leave someone to exchange him, so therefore he's not Yirei Elokim. V'chadoma, another opinion is Kol she'ena maniach talmud. It refers to one that does not leave a student that learned Torah from him to take this place. Says the Gemara, Testayim, let's prove the fact that Rabbi Yochanan Huda Amar, Rabbi Yochanan is the one that said Talmud, that it's one that doesn't leave a student, that then Lo Yarei Lekim, it's a sign that he's not Yarei Lekim. Because the Amar Rabbi Yochanan, we know that Rabbi Yochanan says, or Rabbi Yochanan had said, Dain Garmei da Aisira Bir. This is the bone, or the Rashbam here actually says that it was a tooth that he had from one of his 10 children that passed away. Rabbi Yochanan, as the Gemara says, the story had 10 children that passed away. And in order to go to other people that, God forbid, have such a tragedy, to console them, he showed them, here, look, that I had 10 children that passed away, and this is the tooth of one of my children that passed away. And you should therefore, just like I was able to console myself, you could also be strong and console yourself. That's what Rabbi Yochanan would do. And the Rashbam, as I mentioned, points out that it's specifically a tooth because the tooth is not mekabel tumah. Otherwise, you would not take around a bone that, if it's kisa'ire, could be mekabel tumah, could cause tumah. Okay, so now the fact that Rabbi Yochanan did this means that Rabbi Yochanan holds that when he passed away and his sons passed away before him, he didn't consider that to be something negative because he had a Talmud, he still had Talmidim that took his place. Because if Rabbi Yochanan would hold that the fact that he didn't have a son alive when he passed away would be something negative, it would show that he's not a Yirei Elokim, Rabbi Yochanan wouldn't go around and publicize this. The Rashbam brings the Gemara in Brachas that says, Chatzaf alai mandem mefarsim chete. Someone that publicizes his Averis, it shows on a chutzpah. The pasuk says, Ashrei nisui pesha kisui chata, that a person should cover his Averis. So the fact that Rabbi Yochanan did this, so therefore this proves to Testayim that Rabbi Yochanan the Omar Talmud. Rabbi Yochanan is the one that said that it's a Talmud that you have to leave in your place, and even if a person doesn't leave a son, that's not what it goes on when it says Asher Ein Chalifas Lamai. Says the Gemara, now with Rabbi Yochanan Omar Talmud. Rabbi Yochanan is the one that said that one has to leave a Talmud in his place. Rabbi Shua ben Levi, Omar ben. So then Rabbi Shua ben Levi that argued with him, he's the one that said that one that doesn't leave a son in his place. But the Gemara asks, we know that Rabbi Shua ben Levi le'ozul le'beitamya. Rabbi Shua ben Levi would not go to a house of an oval to be menachem oval. He didn't want to be mevatel from his learning Torah. Ella, unless it was a case of levei man de shachiv b'loy bani. Unless it was a case of a terrible tragedy, like one that passed away without sons. The chsiv bacha lahoylech, and that was the only case that he went. So the fact that he would, what do we learn from this pasuk? V'amar Yehuda amarav lahoylech beloy ben zachar. This pasuk refers to one that passed away and doesn't leave a ben zachar to yarshinim. So the fact that Rabbi Shua ben Levi was mevatel Torah in such a case, dafke to go and be menachem mavel, shows that he holds that not leaving a ben zachar is not a sign that this person is not a Yirei Elokim. If it would be a sign that the person is not a Yirei Elokim, he wouldn't be mevatel Torah dafke in this case to go and be menachem mavel. So hello, Rabbi Shua ben Levi Yudam Talmud. It must be Rabbi Shua ben Levi is the one that holds that if one leaves a Talmud in his place, then that's enough. Now, with Rabbi Shua ben Levi Yudam Talmud, Rabbi Yochanan Amar ben. So then we must say that Rabbi Yochanan is the one that said that if one doesn't leave a son in his place, then it shows that he's not a Yirei Elokim. If so, kashya the Rabbi Yochanan ad Rabbi Yochanan. So if that's a contradiction on what Rabbi Yochanan on one hand said, and on the other hand, what he did himself is hanhage, that he showed the tooth of his son, and he didn't have a son that was in his place, and he was mefarsim of this. So that must be that he held that it's not a sign that he's not a Yirei Elokim. Answers the Gemara, like Kashya, it's not a question. The way we see he behaved, that he showed people the tooth of his son, that is his own personal opinion. that he says that the fact that he didn't leave a son, and he has Talmidim, he left a Talmud in his place, that's good, and therefore it's not a sign that he's not a Yirei Elokim. And the Rabbi, and this that he said that one that doesn't leave a son is a sign that he's not a Yirei Elokim, it wasn't his own opinion. He was repeating this in the name of his Rebbe. Now, the Gemara continues here with a related statement. There's a simin, Hadad, Oni, v'Chacham. 3 statements from Rav Pinchas ben Chama. Daresh, Rav Pinchas ben Chama, Rav Pinchas ben Chama darshant. Mai dechsiv. What's the meaning of the pasuk that it says V'Hadad Shama b'Mitzrayim ki shachav David im Avaisav, that David passed away with his ancestors. V'Chimeis Yoav Sara Tzava, and that Yoav, the general of the army, passed away. So the question on this pasuk is Mipnei ma beDavid nemra boi shchiva. Why regarding David HaMelech does it use the term shchiva? That literally means he lied down. That term that's used here for passing away. Ubi Yoav nemra boi misa, and by Yoav it says literally that he died. Answers the Gemara, David sheniach ben, David that left a son in his place, nemra by shchiva. Therefore it says that he passed away using the term shchiva because there was a son that took his place, so he didn't leave the world altogether. Yoav shelo yeniach ben, Yoav though that did not leave a son, nemra by misa. Therefore it says the term misa by him, that he passed away and left the world. Fragt the Gemara, Yoav lo yeniach ben, did Yoav not leave a son to inherit him? But Vaksiv, there's a pasuk that says, Mibnei Yoav, Oivadya ben Yechiel, that Yoav, one of his sons, was Oivadya ben Yechiel. Ela, so the Gemara amends this, David sheniach ben Kemoisai, David that not only left a son, but left a son that was on his level like him, Nemra by Shchiva. Therefore it uses only the term Shchiva. Yoav shelo yeniach ben Kemoisai, Yoav that did not leave a son that was on his level like him himself, Nemra by Misa. Therefore it uses the term Misa. Another thing, Darish Rav Pinchas ben Chama, Rav Pinchas ben Chama darshan, Koshe, Anias, B'toich Beisa Shel Adam, poverty in a house of a person is worse, Yoiser Mechamisha Makis, more than 50 Makis. Shenemar, it says in the Pasuk in Eiv, when Eiv who had a lot of Yisurim and afflictions, Chanuni, Chanuni, Atem Rei, Ki Yad Eleka Nogabi. He's speaking to his friends and he's saying to his friends that you should daven for me, or you should be graceful to me. Why? Because the hand of Hashem has affected me. So he uses the term, the hand of Hashem. And his friends respond to him, Hishama, be careful, al tefen aloven, ki al zeh bachartem ha'ini. Don't go and do anything bad, because choose the afflictions and suffering you have rather than being poor. So we see that being poor was even worse than the Yisurim that he had that came on him, on his body. So he used the term that regarding the Yisurim that he had, Yad Alekan Nogabi. By Mitzrayim, by the Makis, which were 10 Makis over there, it says the term Etzba Alekim. So over here when it says Yad, which is 5 fingers, 5 times as much, it means that he had 50 Makis of Yisurim that came upon him on his body. And nevertheless, his friends tell him that Oini, poverty, is even worse than this. Darish Rav Pinchas bar Chomer, Rav Pinchas bar Chomer darshan another thing. Kol sheyesh loy choyle b'toich beisei, one that has someone that's not well in his home. Yelech etzel chacham, let him go to the chacham, to a tzaddik, v'yivakish olav rachmim, and the chacham will daven for his sake. Shenema, as the pasuk says, Chamas melech malachei moves, when you have the anger of the king of the Eibishter, there's malachei moves, a person's life is in danger, v'ish chacham yichpereno. So then you chapreno. So you go to the ish chacham, and he will daven, and he will bring a kapara for this person. This Gemara is quoted, the Rebbe brought this Gemara in a Siche as a source for the fact that when there's a case where a person has a tzara, whatever it is, a chayla in a house, you go to a Rebbe to ask for a bracha. Clear Gemara. Going back to what it said in the Mishnah. Zeh klal, the Mishnah said, this is the rule. Kol hakaydim benachla, whoever comes first in the line of inheriting, Yaitse Yerechai, so his descendants, Kaidman, also come first. So, for example, the son that inherits first, it's not just the son, but it's the son of the son, or even the grandson of the son. That includes even a granddaughter. All of his Yaitse Yerechai come before the next one in line to inherit. The father that is comes first. The father comes if there's no son or there's no daughter, so the father comes before the brothers, which would be the father of the one that died's son, the children. He comes before them. Rami Bachame asked the following shaila. What happens in the following case? When a person dies, and Avia Av, the one that would inherit, one option would be the grandfather, or Va'acheya Av, or the brothers of the father of the one that passed away. Who comes first? And the Gemara gives an example for this case. Kagain Avram v'Yishmael, Avram and Yishmael benichsei Esav, to inherit the properties, the chasim of Esav. Esav and Kaidim, who comes first? So if, for example, Esav would pass away, and he would have no sons or no brothers, if that would be the case, obviously that's not what the case was, but if the case would be that Esav passed away with no sons and no brothers, and now the question is, who would inherit him? Would the grandfather Avram inherit him, or would Yishmael inherit him, which is his father's brother, his father Yitzchak's brother? Says the Gemara, Amar Rava, so Rava says that it's not a shayla b'chlal. We can learn this out very clearly from the Mishnah. Tashama, what does the Mishnah say? Ha'av kaidim l'chol yaitze yerechai, that the father comes before anybody else, any of the other descendants of his. So therefore, in this case, who's the one that would have to yashin Esav if he had no children? His father, Yitzchak. And now, in this case, if Yitzchak yashins, and Yitzchak is not alive anymore, so who yashins Yitzchak? His father yashins him, which is Avram. So therefore, Avram yashins before Yitzchak's own, before Avram's own descendants. That's what the Mishnah said. Ha'av kaidim l'chol yaitze yerechai. When a person dies, then the father yashins before the person that dies' brothers, which is the father's sons. So in this case, this is exactly what we're talking about over here. That Avram yashins Esav, his grandson, through Yitzchak, because when Esav dies, Yitzchak yashins him. And now Yitzchak's not alive; it goes to his father Avram, and not to Yishmael, which is Avram's son. Avram comes before his son, before Yaitze Yerecha, exactly as the Mishnah says. So the Gemara wants to understand, why did Rami Bachama even ask this as a shaila if it's clear in the Mishnah? Says the Gemara, Rami Bachama agav chorfei, because of his sharpness, meaning that Rashbam says he was tarud, he was busy trying to figure out another shaila which is not as clear, so loy ayim ba. So he wasn't ma'ayim when he asked this question, that because this is really understood clearly from the Mishnah. Now, what was that other shaila that Rami Bachama had? So the Gemara brings boy Rami Bachama. Rami Bachama asked the following shaila: Avia Av. What's in the case where the question is, who would yashin? The grandfather or v'achiv, or the brother of the one that passed away? Who would yashin first? Kagain Avram v'Yaakov b'nichse Esav. If Esav dies and he has no children, and now either his brother Yaakov could inherit, or it could go to the grandfather, which is Avram. Who would inherit for Ezaman Kaidim? Who comes first? Now, what would be the svara to go to the grandfather before the brother? Because if you go to really after Esav dies and he has no children, who's the one that yashins him? It's Yitzchak. Yitzchak is the one that has to yashin him. Now, if Yitzchak can't yashin him, which is his father, so then it should go to the brother, which is Yaakov, not to the grandfather. However, there's a svara to say that because Avram is the grandfather, we have a cloud that b'nei banim harehem kebanim, that grandchildren are just like children. So maybe the cloud that it said in the Mishnah that the grandfather, not the grandfather, in the Mishnah it says that the father will inherit before his children, before Yaitze Yerechai, maybe that means that the father inherits not only before his children, even before his grandchildren, which in this case is that Avram would inherit Esav even before Yaakov would inherit Esav. Maybe that's a pshat in the Mishnah, because Avram, again, even though he's a grandfather, he's not the father, but b'nei banim areim kebanim, and therefore Avram inherits directly Esav like a father inherits a son. And therefore he, as a father, father, comes before Yaakov, which is a brother of Esav. Maybe that's the way we can understand the Mishnah. So Rava said, Tashema, let's learn and understand from what it said in the Mishnah, Ha'av kaidim l'chol yaitze yerechai. The father comes before all of his descendants. And so now the way Rava understood this is that a father inherits before any of his descendants, including not only his own sons or his own children, but even his grandchildren. So therefore in this case, where Yitzchak is not alive anymore, but it's only now there's an option of either Yaakov should inherit Esav or Avram, the grandfather, should inherit Esav. The grandfather, Avram, comes before his grandson, which is Yaakov, to inherit Esav. That's how Rav understood what it said in the Mishnah. Yotze Yerechai includes even a grandson. Rami Bachama, and now the Gemara explains, why did Rami Bachama have this shaila? Because he held Yotze Yerechai Shaloi. When it says in the Mishnah that a father inherits before his descendants, what it means is a father inherits before his own sons. In the example that we had before, that Avram would come and inherit before Yishmael, his own son. Or in a case, or for example, Yitzchak, if he was alive, would inherit before Yaakov. That's what the Mishnah meant to say. So Yotze Yerechai means not his grandson, but only his son. Why? Because we don't say the klal of B'nei Banim Areim Kabanim. The grandfather does not yarshin directly from the grandson. The Yerusha goes first to Yitzchak. So therefore, in this case, when Yitzchak is not alive, so then Yaakov, the brother of the Mace, will inherit, and not the grandfather. That's how you should understand the Mishnah. Now the Gemara says, now that was the way Rami Bachama understood that you should learn the Mishnah. Or maybe not. Maybe there is a svara to say, B'nei Banim Areim Kebanim, so therefore there's still a svara to say that the grandfather comes first. But there's certainly no raya from the lashon of the Mishnah, as Rav said. Now the Gemara goes further and says, Hachanami Mistavre, it's logical to say that this pshat in the Mishnah is correct. The Ktani, the Mishnah says, Zeh HaKlal, this is the rule, Kol HaKodim B'nachla, the one that comes first in inheritance, Yotze Yerechai Kodim. So his descendants come first as well. Now, if that's the case, V'ilu Iseli Yitzchak. If Yitzchak himself was alive here to inherit his son Esav, so then Yitzchak Kodim, Yitzchak would come first. And if Yitzchak comes first, so now Hashtanami Delesa Yitzchak, if Yitzchak is not alive, so then his descendants, Yitzchak's own son, comes first, which is Yaakov. Yaakov, the son of Yitzchak, takes the place of his father Yitzchak to inherit his brother Esav. Before the grandfather, before we go to Avram, Shema Mina, this proves that this pshat in the Mishnah is correct when it says that Ha'av Kaidim L'chol Yotze Yerechai, it only means that a father comes before his own sons, but not before the grandsons. That's how Rami Bachama understood the Mishnah.